Welcome to Impact 2024, our continuing conversation where we talk about all different types of topics, race, religion, current events, everything that you can think of. And as always, we invite you to join us in that conversation. You can join us by typing questions or your comments into the comment section, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, just go ahead and type in and we will address your comments, your concerns. We put it up on the screen and we will get right to it. This is a offering of Imani Christian Ministries. And as always, I'd like to point out the other offerings that are available as well. So on Thursdays, we have Thursday Thirst, our weekly Bible study. That's at 7 o'clock, same place here, YouTube, Facebook, or in person. On Sundays, we have worship service. That's at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Again, Facebook, YouTube, or in person. And then on Tuesdays at 7 o'clock, we have a prayer, a time of prayer where people in the ministry could all be praying around the same time. So from 7 to 7:45, sometime in between that time, we all pray. And so if you want to join us in the prayer, if you have a prayer concern, you can call it in on the phone number here. And we just all pray. Not the whole entire time, unless you want to. But at some point between that 7 and 7:45 time frame, we ask that you give a prayer. Okay, let's hop right into our topic for today. Just as a reminder to everybody, this is Thanksgiving week. Hopefully, safe travels. You're getting with your family, friends, or not. You're doing your shopping, or you're doing your football watching, or a lot of people go to movies and do things this week. But whatever you do, I hope you do it in a safe and happy and enjoyable manner. That is not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about today is a nice little easy topic. What we've had is a lot of situations of fraud going on lately. People being taken advantage of, people being tricked. It's nothing new. This has been going on since the beginning of time. It's one of the oldest occupations is fraud, tricking people, taking what is not yours, not by force, but by way of tricking folks. And so they have all these cyber criminals. One of the most notorious ones when the internet first started was the Nigerian prince email scheme, where they would email you and say, hey, I got all this money that's tied up. I need you just to send me a little bit of money or give me your banking information. I can deposit it in your account. Or you send me a little bit of money so I can get my money released and then I can send you all this extra money. That was one of the big schemes back in the day. Now they've gotten a lot more sophisticated where the schemes come through text, where they come through emails, they come through phone calls, where people are just trying to get your information. Now, a lot of times it's tricky where we're going to fool you into something where I will say that one recent one that has come up is the scheme where it comes through the postal service, Amazon, any of these delivery services. And the scheme is just simple. They say, hey, you got a package that's being delivered. Give us your information because the package is going to the wrong place or it's being held up because we didn't have all the information. So we need your phone number, your routing number. We need what credit card you paid with, whatever. And so it's another scam. These are tricking scams where we're just trying to trick you into doing stuff. Very intelligent people can get caught in these scams. All it just takes a moment to take your eye off of it. Most of this stuff looks really, really legit. Then there's other scams. These other scams are just based on the fact that people are gullible. It's still a trick, but it's not the same kind of trick. This is not a trick where I'm fooling you just because your eye wasn't on the ball. This is I'm taking advantage of you because you're gullible. And those ones they're a little different. And so I gave you the one example of where we're saying, all right, you have a package. You might actually have a lot of packages going on and you just don't realize what's going on. But the gullible one is back more to the Nigerian prince scheme, where someone comes up and they say, hey, if you can give me some money, I will give you more money. Or if you can do this little thing for me. And one of the ones that goes on is a deposit scheme where you give me money, I put it into a bank account or an account that you can see, and it keeps growing and growing and growing. But then when it becomes time for you to withdraw your money and get it back, all of a sudden you can't. They do that with a lot of things like Bitcoin or little investment stuff. Those type of schemes. Another one is where someone will ask you for your bank account information, and they will actually make a deposit and put money into your bank account, and they'll put money into your bank account again, and then eventually you'll go to your bank account, and all of a sudden all of those things have been reversed, and they've taken all of your money out. And so these are more because you're gullible, more than I'm tricking you. Tricking is just I'm trying to catch you off guard. You really, if you had a moment, you really know what was going on. This was a trick. What was gullible is I'm just taking advantage of you and something that you want. Why are we talking about that part? Gullible comes sometimes. Gullible comes from greed. And what we've seen over the past couple of weeks, what we've seen over, if you look even further over the past couple of years, or there was one analysis that came that off of COVID became a new culture of greediness and selfishness. And that greed has led to gullibleness. That gullibleness is coming from greed. Because if you notice, when you look at some of these schemes and these scams, it's because they're tapping into your greed. You're gullible because of your greed. So they're tapping into your greed and they're saying, hey, you're greedy. You want to get all this money the easy way. You want to try to get more money. And I'm telling you about these big giant returns that you're going to get, or this big giant windfall that you're going to get that you didn't earn. And you latch onto it. And the next thing you know, they trick you. But if you were being greedy and you're kind of just thinking regularly, like, okay, I'm going to make money, then you wouldn't go for something that just sounded so crazy. The Nigerian prince that comes around and says, I'm going to give you $1 million if you just help me out with this $1,000 just so I can release my money. That's pure greed, because you're like, oh, I can get $1 million. When the reality is, it doesn't even sound reasonable to most reasonable people, but that greed part of you kind of covers it. Oh, you're being kind, people are just greedy. There it goes. That's what it is. That gullible and that greedy. That's exactly it. It matches up. But that's where it is. It's the greed. But what they've shown over the past couple of years, and again, one of the things is that it started really going out of control since COVID, is that greed has now really taking over our decision-making process. This is not about the election, but we will talk about the election. The election that just happened, when they were polling people, they were asking, well, what are some of the things that, made you vote the way that you voted? One of the biggest ones was the economy, but it wasn't really so it was the economy. And it wasn't really just fully the economy of how the economy is working, but it was how the economy affected you. They said inflation, my prices were too high. It costs too much for me to get a house. It costs too much for me to pay for gas. And I want to be able to have more. Now, as we all know, the prices of everything went up, but also income for most people went up. Minimum wages, regular wages. Wages were one of the number one causes of inflation. But the concept for most people was, all right, how the economy affected me. Not how the economy affected everybody, but how it affects me. So that was the one of the major points that was brought up. Another one was, again, it was jobs, their jobs. They wanted job security, or they wanted to have better jobs. So those are some of the major points was the economy. And then when you talk to people, some of the other major points, though, on the other side, when you started talking about healthcare and you started talking about opportunities for education, and when you're talking about things that are more for everybody, not just you, not your family, not your economy, your income, but when you start talking about stuff that goes to everybody, those were a little bit more on the lower end of the priority list. It's an example of the greed, because people were you're voting for, whether you're voting, doesn't matter what party you're voting for. Most people were voting for their own self-interest above anything else. So when it came to things like racism, sexism, when it came to the isms that we were talking about, or those type of themes that were going on in the election time, people were minimalizing those to maximize what is happening to me. So I really don't care about what's happening to other people. So if other people are being discriminated against, whether they're women, whether they're people of color, whether they're people um, of different communities, different orientations, whatever, I really don't care about what's going on with them as much as I care about what's going on with me. And it was a constant theme, and people just put it out there. Two of the terms that we use terms as when we're talking about we want to be wealthy, we want to have generational wealth. That is a term of greed. It's just a term that we use to make it sound a little bit better. Generational wealth means nothing more than I want to be really, really rich. But we don't want to say that. We were trying to make it palatable to be able to say, hey, I want to get all I can get. I want to get so much money that my family down the line don't gotta work. Or my grandkids don't have to worry about nothing. That's nothing but a level of greed, but it just sounds better. And so that's another part of the greed. And as you see these dominoes start to hit, you kind of see where society has gotten greedier and greedier and greedier, because everything, for the most part, that we talk about is greed, is our greed, and what we can get out of whatever happens to us. And so that greedy nature, is larger than it's ever been. Comment. Our society is the way it is because people, particularly in the U.S., feel they should be rich. If the economy is so bad, why is it predicted that more than $1 trillion will be spent this holiday season? Yeah, it's a good point. If the economy was so bad, how do we have all this additional income to be able to do the things that we want to do? Holiday season, depending on who you talk to, they say most people are going to spend anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000. Most people, $2,000, $5,000 on the holiday season. And so when you're looking at numbers like that, $2,000, $5,000, that's a lot of money to give out gifts and presents to people. And so that's not from people with an economy that's so bad that you have that much disposable income for one holiday. So yeah, I think that's what our society is, but it's the way that we're working it down. We're working it down. That greediness comes from also an entitlement, and unfortunately, I'll say a lot of parents, I think it's our fault. We dropped the ball a little bit when they decided to say that kids we're going to have sports and things like that, and then we weren't going to keep score. You think, well, that's trivial. That's not a big deal. But what it does is it gives you an idea of, I want to be able to play sports and I want to be a winner at the same time. Or I want to be able to have everything. And that's the common theme that we kind of push through. I want to be able to have everything. And so it should be, I make decisions and I can get this or I can get that. But to have everything, to be able to have everything, sometimes is a situation of greed. When you're talking about yourself, I should be able to have everything. So I should be able to make choices. And regardless of the choice, I should still be able to have everything that I want. And as parents, we kind of put that into place. Sometimes you put that early on in your kids that you can have it all. Like, no, you got to make choices. If you choose to play sports, then your grades may go down. Or if you choose to, play sports, then you won't have time to do other things. You have to have an opportunity cost. But we're trying to make them do everything and give people everything, and then you have an understanding of I should be able to have everything. And so that a little bit of entitlement kind of works into that whole greed. We're a culture of greed. They say people may spend as much as $10,000 per person. Yeah, on that high end, $10,000. Not the high end, but on the higher end, higher than my end, $10,000. Yeah, for a household to spend on holiday season, it's ridiculous. It's crazy. But the reason we talk about this greed is because it's leading us down a path of being gullible, being easily to take advantage of. The greed is what's making people easy to take advantage of. And the and so a better way to say this, and that's why I brought it in, basically is the greed makes us stupid. Gullible is a nice word, but honestly, it makes us stupid. It makes it so that people can discourage others and hurt others. But as long as you get what you want because of your greed and you satisfy you and your greed, you'll sit to the sidelines and let other people be hurt. Point blank. Example. Let me give you a good example. And again, we're going right back to the politics because that was the topic of what just happened. I talked about this last week, and I'm going to talk about this forever. So if you get tired of it, I'm sorry, but that's just what I'm going to talk about. There's black men sit back here and they say, "Man, I want these tax breaks. I want these tax cuts. I want inflation to go down." And there's a candidate out there that I feel like they're going to do that. And so that's what I want. Now, there's some opportunities if I vote for this person, and maybe my 401k will do whatever, blah, 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 blah. So for me, my greed, what I want. And then that particular person comes along here and disrespects black people, black women specifically, with the words specifically that came right out of his mouth. Hateful, ridiculous, ignorant comments. And because of greed, you push that to the side. And you say, well, I still want what I want. I still want that tax cuts. I still want these opportunities that you think are coming. I still want this and I want that. And so I will let women, black women, be disrespected in order that I can get the things that I want. So whatever is happening to them, I will turn a blind eye to so I can get what I want. That's that greed. We're gonna have Haitians being talked about, disrespected, called names, being lied on. We're gonna just push that to the side, not really care about that, because I want to get the things that I want. Throughout history, this has happened over and over again, of where we decide that we are going to not do the right thing or stay silent in order so that we can get what we want, or fulfill our needs and fulfill our greed. This is what I think, and whatever comment you feel, bring that in as well. This is what I think is happening to us as Christians and in the church sometimes. I think we're being greedy and we're being gullible, and we don't understand that we're being greedy, and the gullibleness is we're being paid to be silent when bad things are going on, or when things that go on that contradict what we believe or what the Bible has taught us. We're being paid to be silent. Our greed has made us gullible to the fact that we're just going to be silent and we're going to sit there and we're just going to let some things happen. And unfortunately, I think that's an epidemic where we haven't really understood it. I don't think that we understand. Everybody understands what greed is. Don't understand the difference between greed and wanting more. Because what greed does is greed, for me, and this is just for me, and this is why I think the word is problematic with the church is, if you want something, you want something. But when you're greedy, it is to the point where you're able to push aside the stuff that you're supposed to do, or push aside your morals or your values in order to stay on the path to get the thing that you want. That's the greed. And so when we're looking at people in churches who we know what the Word of God says about how we're supposed to treat people, who we're supposed to take care of, and we decide that we will allow those things we will be silent when those things are not being done, or when somebody takes us down a path of doing those things, or doing something against those things. And we'll be silent because we don't want to mess up the gravy train. We don't want to mess up that money, our greed. Right? And so one of the things that was, it's funny, one of the things that was said was earlier this week, if you tuned in on Sundays, it was talking about the effect of how we are supposed to be treating immigrants or people who are coming from, coming from the across the border, and our ability to take care of it, and what the Word of God says about feeding people and taking care of folks. But in our greed, we will make sure that those people don't get fed, or we will get on board with people who are saying negative things and discouraging things about people who are trying to get away from certain situations and not help them. Because what we want is to make sure our money is good. Here's greed. You always hear people talk. Well, you're not always. You hear people talk about, all right, well, these people are coming from the different countries that are taking our jobs. Now, the truth of the matter is, how many people you ever know who can sit back and say, well, I had a job, and then this immigrant came in and took my job? Now, I'm pretty sure there's people out there who could legitimately say that, but it's few and far between. Most folk are not going to sit here and be like, well, you know what, I was a dentist, and then, this dentist from another country came in illegally, and now all of my patients went to the illegal dentist, and now they're not. No, that's not happening. It's not too many companies out here just hiring illegal immigrants or undocumented immigrants or whatever you want, whatever the category is you want to call them. Those things are not happening, but you're saying it because you're feeling greedy, and you don't want anything to threaten your gravy train. So whether it's true or whether it's false, you will hop on board with some things like that. And that is direct violation of what you should be doing as a Christian. How's the greed getting in the way of loving your neighbor? The greed is getting in the way of treating everybody as brothers and sisters. If you will accept someone being disrespected, then you more easily become a target of disrespect. They say when questioned, the Hispanic man said that if he got deported, that would be okay. Yeah, that's an interesting one. That's an interesting one. Yeah, I mean, the greed is so. The first part about that, the greed is so bad, I think, with us, is that we will let ourselves be disrespected, and we will let ourselves be made fun of and ridiculed and done whatever, as long as we can get that thing that we want, that power, that money, whatever. You look at some of these folk. Let's go back to politics again. Sorry. You look at some of these politicians and the things that have been said about them and their family by other politicians. Disrespect you, disrespect your family, say horrible things. I mean, call you just terrible names, call you ignorant, stupid, and make up things about you. And that's what these politicians will endure. And then we'll turn around and basically grovel and praise the person who called them all these names, or called their family these names and disrespected their family and hurt their family. All because they want that power and they want that money. That greed has allowed them not only to ignore other people, but it's also to ignore themselves and ignore their own values. And so I think that's what's problematic. But I think as far as the church goes, and as far as us goes as Christians, is that we need to understand what greed is. I'm on the minority of this, and I talk about that generational wealth statement, but it's really problematic. It is really problematic because when you break down what that is, you're saying generational wealth, all it is was a trick to make you say greed is good. It is a trick to encourage you. And man, I'm out here. I'm just trying to get that generational wealth. It is what you're really saying is, I'm out here going to do everything I can do to make as much money as I can. And whether it is going to church on Sundays, whether it is donating, whether it is paying my tithes, whether it is spending my time with my family, all of that stuff can be pushed to the back because I'm about to get this generational wealth. It is a get out of jail free card or an excuse for you not to do the things that you need to do. It's an excuse for you to be greedy, and it validates your greed. When you talk to you have the richest person, some of the richest people in the world, and they talk about how they're not giving their children huge sums of money. They're making sure they're okay. but they're not making sure that they're billionaires, and they're not making their children billionaires. Now, it's not, don't get it twisted. They're making them millionaires, but they're not making them billionaires. One of the reasons why is because they say, well, one, you didn't earn this money, and you gotta do it yourself. You should make money yourself. But I don't need you to just be out here just getting money and just we're making this big lineage of money off of what I make. And so when you have, why would I bring it up? Because when you have people who are billionaires who are not going out here talking about, I'm making generational wealth. Matter of fact, I'm doing the opposite of making generational wealth. And I'm just giving them enough that they can have, and then they can build their own wealth, or they can do their own thing. So us as people who don't have billions of dollars are sitting here and talking about, well, we're going to make ourselves generational wealth, and we're going to make generational wealth for our family, and we're going to work all hard, and we're not going to, we're going to be stingy and keep all our stuff to ourselves, and we're going to not care about anybody else, and we're going to do all this stuff in order to get our generational wealth. While the people who have that are sitting here talking about, nah, I'm not passing that stuff down to the next generation. Somebody got it twisted. Like, I think the problem is there. Our words and our terms now have gotten so out of whack that we don't even know what greed is. Even when we talk about being blessed with God, we're being greedy with that because we want to be blessed, and we're not really trying to let everybody else get blessed. We're sitting here, we do things where we pray for ourselves, and our prayer will end with ourselves. We haven't prayed for nobody else. We haven't thought about anybody else. And I think that's where we are. I think so. I don't know, we're at our time, and it's kind of been like me just kind of venting. But I think the fact that we don't understand what greed is, and I think we need to really work on that. And it's not the church. It's reports out here. It's reports. If you read some of the thought people, I should have, now thinking about it, I probably should have brought some of the names and articles that I read. Is that they're focusing on the country has gone down a path of greed, and it's gotten greedy since 2020. As a result, some people blame it as a result of COVID, where you kind of came home, you stayed to yourself, you just got stuff, you stayed in your stuff, your houses, you stayed indoors, you started ordering online, and it kind of changed how you look at things. Where you got rid of, you didn't value experiences as much, and you valued stuff. And so then we got greedy. And we got greedy with technology, where we swipe, whether it be swiping because we're ordering things, or swiping because we're dating people, or swiping because we're going from article to article, and our attention spans have gotten shorter. How we look at television, where we don't look at television anymore. We get everything on demand, and what it has done is it's made our appetite to what I want when I want it, and that is kind of fed into the fact of us now being all about us, and then becoming greedy. And I think that's hurt us. And I think that as the church, we need to kind of help ourselves, myself, everyone, understand what greed is, and kind of see where there's greed in our life, and see that some of these things that we believe, and some of these things that we're doing, and some of the ways that we're treating other people is not because we just have some weird philosophies, because we're being greedy, we're being selfish, we're being self-contained, we're thinking about ourselves, and we're not thinking about anybody else, and we don't care what happens to them. They are collateral damage. We can turn a blind eye to what happens to other people as long as we're good and our family is good, and we can make that generational wealth. As Christians, we need to understand and accept that, accept the kingdom of God to which we belong. The kingdom of the world pushes us to be greedy. The kingdom of God teaches us to be blessed and to be a blessing. And there it goes. To bless, I think you're right, and that's what I think we got to just remind people of that. Well, I don't think we teach, or it's being taught, but I don't know if we're being outside of church as Christians. Are we reinforcing that with our family? Are we reinforcing that with ourselves? because we're all falling into the trap of the greed. Again, greed is human nature. That's even the way you see a lot of animals. They act like that. You get near a dog when he's eating, he's trying to get all of the food. Even if it's a bunch of food there, he can't even eat all of it. He or she can't eat all of it, and the dog will try to eat all the food. You get near it, try to bite at you. It's greed. That's the nature of being animalistic. We should be better than that. And we should be getting rid of our animalistic ways and our human ways and going more to what the teachings of God is supposed to be. And so again, I think that as we get to Thanksgiving and we are being thankful for all the stuff that we have, I think we need to realize that even that sometimes being thankful and gracious, let's make sure we're not being thankful for being greedy. We got to be thankful for some things outside of ourselves. Because even with us sitting back here saying, well, I'm thankful that I have a great job, and I'm thankful that I have this, and I'm thankful that I have that. Or are you thankful that you have the opportunity to be a blessing, as was stated before? Are you thankful that you have the energy and the wherewithal to be a blessing to others? Are you thankful that you came into a relationship with God so that your life is saved and that you're able to spread the word to others? Or are you just thankful that you got the opportunity to get yourself some generational wealth? All right, past our time. Sorry, went too long. But thank everybody for joining us. Great comments. I honestly, this one is. I honestly hope that we kind of take a look at that a lot more. I know we do it here, but really look at greed and what are you saying in the words that you're using and the words that we are, the things that we're saying, and the things that we're doing. Are we doing it? Is there greed mixed into there? Are we doing it because we're being greedy and selfish? Mighty Christian Ministries, our other offerings on Thursdays, we have Thursday, 7 o'clock. On Sundays, 10 o'clock, we have worship service. And on Tuesdays at 7, from 7 to 7:45, we have prayer. Please join us for all of those or anyone that you can get on Facebook, YouTube. And as always, at 8, we have Impact 2024. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and have a good one.